Hi guys, this is Tones. Welcome to my weekly review. This week I missed what would have been a good winning trade, not because the setup wasn't there, but because one of my rules stopped me from taking it. What's frustrating is that it's the second time it happened into the very same conditions, so it just tells me that something needs to change. In this review, I'm gonna go through the trade, why the rule exists, and why I'm gonna adjust it so it doesn't happen a third time. So let's get into the chart. So this week, my idea coming into the week, let's maybe play replay. I've got the weekend here on Monday. I wanted price to really revisit this area. It didn't. It was so weak. It only created this week here, trapping traders and rejecting. This was on Friday in US, so couldn't get involved in this. So coming into this week, my idea was that we're probably going to take this Friday high, retest that zone, and then go lower. But none of that happened. What actually happened, just going to go down in time frames. In the 1 hour, going to bring Ethereum as well because it's very relevant. So we were trending in the weekend, fake move week beginning. Then the pattern actually played pretty nicely this week, where you have this W here was rise 1, rise 2, rise 3. On Ethereum, it's just 1 and 2 rises. So, and what happened here is Bitcoin only took the weekend liquidity and respected those trap traders that are here. This is like 50% of it. And Ethereum actually went grab Friday US highs and reversed here. This week I was working, so all this section I was at work, only able to trade UK. So I've had that W, that rise level 1. So what do I see first on Tuesday is that Asia grabs the Monday high here and retraces, and then it's sitting below at UK, which is the section I can trade. It's sitting under 50% of Asia, and it's exactly the same thing here on Ethereum. So here I come, and I'm expecting sort of just a retrace after my first level on the 1 hour. So I know I'm playing a retrace. So all I'm waiting, I have this setup that I love a lot, is where it's mostly short. It does play out longs, but it's way better in shorts. Price gets compressed between the 50 and the 20 and 50 EMA here, until it breaks below the 200. It's on the 5 minute, sometimes on the 15. Down the 5 minute, it's very obvious. And you want to have a retest, like either one clean retest like this one, or an information for lower. Usually have a tight stop loss and a conservative target because you're only playing a retrace. So 2R or something similar. What happened here is I saw this on Bitcoin, and this is a perfect retest where I have railroad track followed by a hammer. And when I wanted to open my trade here, sure, I've got this. Now my stop loss is going to be there, and then wherever my target was at the time, which was, for example, here 50% Asia, a little bit before this high. There's a bit of an imbalance here. 50% of Monday, sorry. And when I worked out my fees, I see 3.78 Bitcoin. I thought I remembered that for one Bitcoin with my $500 risk, it cost me $100 of fees. So I thought it was going to cost me $378 of fees for $500 risk. So I'm like, this is too much. Don't want to enter this trade. So I wait a bit, and on Ethereum here, I'm just consolidating, right? Consolidating. There is this imbalance here, and I'm like, if we spike in here and go down, I'm opening a short. And because here Bitcoin keeps dropping, Bitcoin is already below Asia lows. I'm like, I'm just going to enter here because I might not get just that spike up there, and it's not going to make a whole lot of a difference to my trade, or entering here or entering up here, trying to find a perfect entry when the setup is just here and present. So what do I do? Because I skipped this one, and I'll go back. I'll finish this trade, and I'll go back about the fees, talk about the fees a little bit. Which this trade would have still been good. It would have not been to my target, but you know, like if you're 3R, I'll be happy to take money out. If I get these hammers here, and then I get another retest, maybe I would have exited on this candle. Like I'm not really greedy, and then picky on a target, especially if it's already a 2 or 3 hour trade. I enter here on Ethereum, and then perfect entry, it just goes straight into profit. I was still a bit generous with the stop loss because, like I said, I was expecting price to come back in this area, which it did here a little bit later. And then trade moves into my favor. I wanted price to break this, at least break here that wick and that candle, have a close below to bring my stop to break even, which is my aggressive protocol to go to break even. And I'm not a huge fan of going to bed with a trade open, but I'm pretty confident on this one. And I said, even if I get a retrace, there's still a likelihood that we're probably going to take these lows. And on the higher time frame, actually, ETH was still very much sort of creating a W on the higher time frame. I was thinking maybe we'll just at least get that liquidity and then reverse. And if we do, I get a good trade. This was my target. And if we don't, we might still take this low or something, and I'll be able to break even and manage my downside. So anyway, I'll go to bed with this trade open, and I had my alarm to US open here to just monitor it. I was working, so it was just gonna monitor that trade quickly, and I end up waking up here by myself. I checked the charts. We didn't close below there. Got lucky, went all the way back there, but it's retracing now. We're back under Asia lows here. So what do I do? Because this is the retest in that zone I wanted to enter from at the beginning, and now we're back under Asia lows. I'm like, okay, I'll still leave this trade open, even if I hate to keep trades open from UK extension into US open. Usually if I'm in a trade in UK, I'll like to close it before this because there's always a lot of manipulation happening here. So anyway, I see this, and then I'm like, either I close this trade right now, which is a 1-all pretty much if I take the fees out, but this is still a good retest. This is good. I'm below Asia. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to put my stop here and get back to bed. This took me 2 minutes, and this is what happened. I just got to stop at this high. What was a tell sign if I had stayed at the chart and at the laptop is that we didn't manage to break this low, first of all. And here we were just respecting this demand, respecting this. When I woke up, we were below Asia, but here we were just holding it. And so, yeah, if I was stayed awake and went at the laptop for the look at the chart, or you never know, hindsight, but I would have probably exited that trade here, or at least put my stop to break even, paying for the fees. So this was the first half loss of the week. I'm working until Wednesday. All this, I'm here to trade UK. I don't see anything crazy for an entry. So I wake up at 6 a.m. here. I watch the meeting, and I have price that is just retesting 50% of the previous week. Same here on Ethereum, sweeping the previous day high. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to look for shorts now. It's a decent point to look for shorts. And because I know that FOMC happens in the US and then at CME market open, so 10 a.m., there's a possibility for me to get a trade. I'm here at the charts at this time at 10 a.m. my time. And what I see is this drop, and I've got this M retest here. And at this point, I'm really tempted to open this short. Not gonna lie. And target whatever lower. But one of my rules is to not trade dead gap zone, which is this area, during the week. I changed it to Monday. I'm keen to do it on Monday, but not during the week. And the pattern I see that I've already explained last week, which was my winner, which is, I call it a Janet trade, is US makes a high, dead gap zone fails to break this high, makes a lower high, and then Asia would make a lower high. And this is like basically what happened here. I just didn't like this pattern too much as a retest, and what I was really expecting was price to drop, retest a bit better and down, because this is often what happens. Ethereum here wasn't still like giving me, you always have to look at your charts like this without the next candles. At this point, it wasn't so clean. It was retesting, but it wasn't so clean. It wasn't as clean as Bitcoin. So I'm like, I'm gonna wait for Asia Open to give me a better entry, and just price melted down. I know this one could have been an entry. I just didn't find, we were holding the previous day lows. This is not the perfect entry for me, so I was really hoping for price to drop and come back, and sadly it didn't happen, and on Ethereum it just dropped. So, and I was really upset, and I'll tell you why. So let me bring back the FOMC meeting from December, and I remember it vividly because you can see it's the exact pattern. I'm so used to recognize pattern like this. We dropped and we had this same M retest in the dead gap zone, and then no entry in Asia, just straight drop and straight drop here. And it's still in my journal, and I remember being so upset about it. This is why I sort of half remembered it, and this is why here I was present here at this open, but I did not remember that I was so upset that I didn't get the entry and that I should have entered here. This rule of not entering into the dead gap zone has costed me a win. So this has to change. I know this rule was here to protect me in my early days because it can be a highly manipulated area. But I think I'm at a stage now where my trading is really on point, and price action matters more than my timing windows. For sure, I'm always going to come at market open because this is where the volatility kicks in. The pattern I trade is high, retest, and then this entry is sort of confirmation in Asia, but it's still supposed to be lower than this high. So nothing stops me from entering here, having my stop up here. Even if I get a better entry here and it's confirmation, the pattern says that I should not get above those highs anyway. So this drops, nothing I can do about it, very upset. And then once you're upset, it's a really bad mood to be in, because we know it's trading, you get emotions involved. I'm pretty good at managing it now. You have to be really self-aware, but it's there. It's not going to disappear. I come in UK, still want to trade, but my idea is that UK is not going to do anything and US is going to give me an entry and keep going. Those areas I love a lot is the last down candle before we had a big impulse up, breaking all the previous highs. There's more there if I look at, see, it broke all those highs. Is your order block, and when those, instead of being retested and keep holding as support, when they get ran through like this, the retest is so often an entry. That retest of it turns into a breaker block. That retest here is good. And the thing is that here in UK, I didn't like this candle pattern. It might be something I want to change, that I'm so focused on candle patterns. And sometimes just the price and just retesting an area should be key to enter. Like this is the other block, this is 50% Asia. Enter on this candle, stop here. The thing is, I know UK is highly likely going to consolidate, and US can still do this and give me an entry here and down, and I don't want to be stopped before I wake up for US, because here now I'm not working anymore, so I'm happy to wake up for US. My alarm is at 1:30 and I only wake up at 1:40, so price was still here and holding, and the thing is Ethereum was already down there, and honestly I couldn't get up. Like, I thought here was too late for Ethereum at 1:40, plus I could not wake up. And that's the thing, after my roster of 7 days of 11 hours per day, Wednesday night and Thursday night, I'll really struggle and I'll go into deep sleep because I'm so tired about my week. But I'd say there was an entry here on Bitcoin. What happens when often the 5-minute is doing this and it's consolidating, especially at market open? You don't really know what's going on, and I would always drop to lower time frames here and see on the 2 minute. Usually it's good, and it might give you a good pattern and a good entry. And I mean, this was really nice. It was retesting the yearly open, Asia low, and what else was there? I think it was Monday, 50% of Monday. So you can bet that by this time, when I wake up and of US here 7-8, I'm really pissed off because I missed this one, missed this because I could not wake up. You know, it is what it is. Can't trade every time frame. Already said it. And then at this point, I think on a 15-minute, I could already count 3 drops. 1, 2, 3. We grabbed all this liquidity here. We grabbed this liquidity here on Ethereum. We're holding the low of the week. I'm not keen to enter a short here when this is the low of the week, because this can be just inside leg before we go higher. And even if I'm still waiting for more drops on the 1 hour, I know the 15 can do this, and down again. So too risky for me when I think there can be a W, even if I'm missing a stopping volume candle, so a candle with a big wick that tells me, okay, the move might be over. This tells you like the move might not be over. And this is Friday. Friday, I have to be careful, especially. That's why I'd be happy to skip Friday when I'm already positive for the week. I don't want to risk anything on Friday. But the problem this week is that I already had half a loss, and I really thought I could finish this week green, and this was the mistake. And then you don't want to come into Friday with wanting to make some profit or have a certain outcome, because Friday you can have good trades, but it is highly likely to be a manipulation day. But I come here and we reject. So we've rejected the low of the day. We're rejecting 50% Asia. I have this information, and I have it here on Bitcoin, which is looking pretty good. Same, rejecting 50% Asia, rejecting previous day. So I entered this trade here in UK, thinking, okay, I've got my M, and even if I think we've overextended on the levels, or they're already complete, we might get, like I said, a W. And if we drop at least this low, I can go to break even, or I can protect my trade. I'll just manage it in a way to still be careful, because it's Friday and it just might not play out. And by this time here, when we impossible to go back to that wick, which is the trap traders, and you have the same thing here on Ethereum. There's probably a bit of volume in here. People get trapped short, and then we come back, but we don't fully go back to this point. And then at this point, it's my 2 hour mark, where if my trade is not in profit, I'll cut it. And instead of cutting my trade where it is, what I always do now is I'll play the luck. I'll just put my stop. So this candle was just before this one happened, my 2 hour mark. I just put my stop at the high of that candle, because what happened in the past is I'll cut my trade. I don't know, price would be here. I'll cut my trade, and then for whatever reason it keeps dropping. So may as well just put my stop just above, and then I might get lucky and price keeps going, but I'll let price take me out rather than me executing a trade that is still that might still play out. So I get stopped here at a tiny loss with fees. It's a little bit more. I wake up for US, and this is that exact pattern that I talked about on the higher time frame before, where you have your drop, sort of create a W, and then you keep pushing up, and then you have your M of the 200 EMA, and then it should just drop from here. Even if it's Friday and there might be manipulation, just don't hesitate on this trade. I do take the short here. So on Ethereum, we'll just keep going, making lower highs. While here, Bitcoin took those highs, so there was divergence here between the two assets. So how I did manage this trade after that is very simple. Well, first of all is once I have my information here in this drop, I want price to retest that 50 and keep going. This is the idea here. And I know most of the time Fridays create a pivot nowadays. So this is what happened here. We created a higher time frame W, but at this point, I just cannot ignore that setup that is a high probability T setup in my eyes, and sometimes I still bring up those things. It's pretty rare nowadays, but this drop was the highest volume in all the rest of the week, I reckon, and there's a massive amount of liquidation that came with it. So it could be the last move. The thing is, both assets just had that long-term liquidity resting just below here and here, so it was really possible that US will just take that before going into the weekend. But at this point, yeah, I want price to reject here and drop. The thing is, it retraced a little bit higher, and if I go back to the 2-minute, I have this supply zone here, so like the last move up before we came back down. So I'll mark this area, and what I want is, like, worst case, I want my price to reject here but respect this zone, and it sort of respects it, but it breaks a little bit higher. And in my experience, if we go that high, it's a bit of a warning sign at first, and then second, we just can't break below this low, and we keep hanging here. So here I am, and I'm like, okay, this is still good. We have this rejection here before this white candle comes, and it's still viable. And at this stage, Ethereum is very well rejecting that area as well, so it's still good. And then comes this up candle, same on Bitcoin here, and I'm like, okay, I'm not too keen about this. At this stage, what I don't want to see is, because I already had my retest here, I don't want price to go back above this retest. So I'll put my stop loss here. I'm like, yeah, if price goes above here, I want to be out, because how my trade play out is like this and down. Realistically, this high could have been my stop as well, but I went a little bit conservative. I'm like, okay, we'll just go to that retest. So get stopped. But what happens here on the 15 is I get to a point where my setup is invalidated. I'm out of my trade, but suddenly, I think it was on this candle, I'm like, okay, there's still a name here for me created. We're still rejecting the initial low of the day, and Ethereum is still very bearish here. So at this stage, I re-enter this trade here. So bear in mind, this is how the chart is looking. It's looking like this. I'm like, they're still gonna head down. It was just a bit more manipulation. My formation still here. Ethereum at this stage is still very much bearish, and next candle, boom, straight up, stopped out, and yeah, I go to bed. That's me for my week. Got 4 trades in, pretty much 2 or 3 half losses and a full loss here on this one. My mindset is still good. I'm still positive. My trading, even if it doesn't look like it, is really, I think, on point, and I don't make silly mistakes. The big mistake of this week was this one here. Could not wake up, didn't get a trade, didn't want to get involved here, protected myself, missed that. And then at this point here, I'm like, yeah, we'll keep going lower. There's liquidity below. Let me get in because I missed all this. So there's definitely a little bit of FOMO involved on a Friday, which is not ideal. And then here I see a really good setup. It's just not the right day for it. And yeah, it's just trading. Thanks for watching. If the breakdown of my trades is helpful or find some value, just let me know. I do this for myself because it holds me accountable. It helps me try to express my reasoning and how I see my trades and why I did this or that. So yeah, hopefully brings a bit of value to people. And if you've had a losing week, well, I had 2. I've had like 3 months of losing weeks. So yeah, you're not alone. Have a good one. See you.